Real agents of change love to bring you interesting stories that educate and inform and hopefully help to spread the goodness around the world. We have Jim Wootton with us. He is the author of Real Estate Gift, and he's one of our rock stars. And keep in mind that gifts of real estate can be residential, can be commercial, can be raw land. But Jim's going to tell us today why it's so simple and important to approach people that have commercial property, whether they are philanthropic or not. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you, Kemi, and for all the work you do. It's wonderful. So, yes, I just want to get across here that if a property is for sale and it's commercial and it could serve the nonprofits' uses, whether they need office space or whether they need an assembly space for like a church or any other, or for a school, uh, that they should just be looking for that commercial property. The approach to this is not to be looking for and scouring the land for a philanthropist. No, the way to do this is you're looking for the property that you need, and we prepare the proposal, and 1 out of 3 of them will say yes. That's all we need. We just need one. So, for example, we had a national grocery store chain that had decided to go with a different floor plan from the 10,000 square foot building that they currently had to a 14,000 square foot footprint that needed to be bigger. So they built one nearby and they put the old building up for sale. This is very common practice. So we have an empty building. It's 10,000 square feet. They want $1,200,000 for it. It's listed for sale by a commercial realtor. That's what it's going to be. That's what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be your listing. It doesn't have to be a philanthropist. It just needs to be a building that you can use. So we proposed that we would, a church that I represented, that they would pay 2/3 of that, $800,000 cash, which is going to be a loan, right? They're going to borrow the 800,000, and the other 400,000 would be a charitable gift from the grocery store owner. And so, without changing one jot nor tittle on the price, they just signed it, said, "Yeah, let's do this," and so we did. So, what I want to say is that, covering a couple of maybe some tax factors here, that the 1,200,000 turned out it did not appraise for 1,200,000, and that's what IRS relies upon. They don't rely upon the listing price. If you put that 1,200,000 into your offer as a mention, they don't care. The only thing that IRS cares about is the appraisal. There has to be a new, fresh appraisal prepared for tax purposes, not for a bank loan. It has to be a new appraisal. It has to be by a qualified independent appraiser, not employed by either the charity or the taxpayer. It has to be an independent appraisal firm. So it has to be someone who does appraisals of this type property. That's very important, that someone is qualified to do this commercial appraisal. And the appraisal has to mention that it's being done for tax purposes. It has to be in writing. It has to be a sentence right above their signature on page 3 of the summary, that this appraisal was prepared for tax purposes. And it also has to have an effective date. And the effective date of this appraisal can't be too old, can't be stale, can't be more than 60 days prior to closing. So if they have an appraisal done and the closing date gets stretched out beyond 60 days after the appraisal, then it needs to be refreshed and redated, by the appraiser. And then, but it doesn't have to be done before closing. It can be done after the closing, anytime up until the due date of the taxpayer's tax return, which could be next year in April. You've got plenty of time to do the appraisal. But the effective date of the value has to be the date of closing if you do it after the closing. So I've had some like that, and IRS is fine with that as long as the appraiser certifies that on the date of the closing it was had a certain value on that date. So those are some facts. But what I want to impress upon people is you can do this on any commercial property or any residential property, as long as as a seller has owned it for more than 12 months. It can't be short-term capital gains property. It has to be long-term capital gains property. And if you have one where that the owner bought it, 6 months ago, you still make the proposal, but you're not going to close this thing until the 12 months have expired, because you've got to be a long-term capital gain asset. Um, as I say, it could be a shopping center, it could be a grocery store, it could be an office building, could be raw land, it could be a house next door to the church. You need it for parking, any of those things. But be sure that there's substantial gift here involved, that you have at least, 25%, 20%. If it gets to be too low, like 10% less, 5%, that doesn't work. If you want to buy a house next door to the church for 100,000, you can't say, oh, well, we'll pay you 90, the church will pay 95,000 cash and have a $5,000 gift. Because IRS is going to say, well, that's not a gift. That is just old fashioned haggling. And it, they don't have a bright line test for you. They just say the word substantial. And CPAs all across the country seem to think that, you'd be safe if it was 25%, 20% probably even. But we don't have any safety here as far as that goes. We need to have it be substantial. And I've never made a proposal for anything less than that. So ask largely. It's right out of the scripture, right? Ask largely. So you're going to have a 25, 35, 40% gift proposal. And if you make 2 or 3 offers, you're probably going to get one of them accepted. And people do have donative intent. I think that most business people, in the back of their mind, they have, someday I'd like to do something significant, make the world a better place, make a difference in the lives of people. Well, here it is. It's on a silver platter. All it takes is a swish of the pen. And they might even say, it's been on the market for 3 months. We were thinking about reducing the price 10% anyway. Well, here we're going to get a 40%, all the taxes we're going to save. Why would we not do this? So there's that. And they can maybe make up for some back tithes with a swish of the pen.
When I first read your book and I heard you talk about this, the way that you have done it for all these years and the way that the Rock is doing it's the same concept of the bargain sale, but a completely different perspective of who to contact. And I thought, wow, going straight to a property owner and just asking them to do it. I thought that seems so hard. But you tell us that 1 out of 3 just this flat out will do it. So that's just amazing to me.
Yep. So on that note, I want to say, do not ask them verbally. The way you do this is with a contract that you sign with blue ink and you deliver it. That's your first approach to the seller. Is not, hey, I'm on the phone here. Would you ever think about making a gift? No, don't do that. Put it in writing, make a contract, make sure it says all these good things that protect the seller and the buyer, and deliver it. Send it by email to the listing agent. He'll look at that and say, well, I've never seen this before. He may call, say, how's this work? But they're going to deliver it to the seller. They're obligated to, and they want to get the deal closed. And the seller's going to take it to his CPA, and the CPA, if they can use the write-off in every case, they're going to say, yeah, you can do this. It's right in the IRS code, and you should do it. We don't have CPAs being the reason this doesn't work. CPAs want it to work. They like it. They'll be bragging about it at their next party that they were involved.
On that proposal that you send over, I'm imagining here's a seller that wants 1.2 million for a property, and this offer comes in that says 800,000, and I can just imagine it at first glance, it's like, whoa, I'm not taking 30% less for my building. When you put in the stipulations, do you actually write out an example of what their tax benefit would be, or do you just say 400,000 is a gift and it's a tax deduction?
Yeah, we start out with a little preamble. The first sentence says that this transaction shall be structured to qualify as a charitable donation, to a 501c3 organization, so that they know, they don't just see the 800. That's in the next paragraph. The first paragraph is announcing that this is going to be structured to be a charitable gift. So they look at it and they say, wow, how's this work? And then you go into the 800,000. there's several things you want to put the onus as far as we don't do the math on the tax savings. You don't want as a realtor or even the church, the charity, you don't want to be responsible for him getting a certain tax savings. Because if it doesn't work out, you don't want them saying, "Hey, you told me I was going to save 400 grand here, and looks like I don't get to save 400 grand." You don't want that. So we just tell them that they can claim a charitable deduction of 400,000, and then from there on, there's a place where you need to say that um, that the seller agrees that they will rely upon his own tax professionals as to the suitability and the efficacy of the tax savings. So, and we want them to do that. We want them to take it to the CPA because the CPA is going to be a cheerleader for us. They're not going to tell them don't do this. They're going to tell them to do it if they can benefit from the tax savings. And I have had, a few cases, very, very few cases where they said, well, you don't have enough income here to justify this, and you probably shouldn't do it. But that would be very rare.
Now, just to clarify for us at the Real Agents of Change, normally we're talking about how there is no risk, there is no money out of pocket, there is no liability for a nonprofit. In other words, the way that we typically teach this, it's about helping nonprofits get funded through gifts of real estate, but not taking title to it and moving into managing and maintaining the property, as I say it. But so just for our viewers' knowledge, this is much more in depth and complicated, and
it's ownership.
Yeah. So but if the nonprofit that you're working with is wanting a building, and this does come up, people will ask me,
Right.
well, what if it's a homeless a place that wants more houses to home people that are from human trafficking or something. So this would be more for those folks who want to acquire real estate as a nonprofit.
Right. This is only about owning and occupying and running and being responsible. It's real estate they need for their operations. That's what this is for. Now, I want to say, I mean, it doesn't mean that they can't do that. If they want to acquire real estate with a bargain sale with a view towards cashing it out, they can. They could do this. I had one a motorcycle dealership, Harley Davidson dealership, where they they acquired it and then later on a bargain sale, and they sold it for almost the full appraised value, got all the cash, and bought another church building with it for cash. So it could be that they would send it on to, Realty Gift Fund to be cashed out if they get a big gift. So this would take, a charity that's is probably better to just, I mean, the thing of it is, how do you get the gift started? Well, to me, the way you get the gift started is you write the contract and you hand it to them. Okay. So that's the difference here between the two procedures. But they could take the bargain sale gift and turn it over for resale by Realty Gift Fund. Yes, they could do that.
We love giving people options and opportunities. As we like to say at The Rock, we don't sell or convince anyone to do anything. We educate and inform so that they know what their options and opportunities are, whether it's fundraising or whether it's acquiring a property in this way. Any last words for us, Jim, as we bring our interview to a close?
No, I think that wraps it up. And thank you for an excellent, presentation, making this possible. And best wishes for continued success.
Thank you. Thank you. And same to you. Well, there you have it, friends. There is another case study. Gifts of real estate are happening in lots of different ways all over the country, have been for over 100 years since the government put into effect the tax deduction, 1917. So if you're not familiar with how this works, it's just because you haven't learned about it yet. But Jim Wootton or the Real Agents of Change would love to help you with that. So reach out to us if you have any questions. Thanks for the interview, Jim. See you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye.